Now, transfer simply means a permanent release. When an officer is permanently released from one scheduled office to another scheduled office within the service. The question is, what is scheduled office? Scheduled office. An individual released from one scheduled office to another scheduled office. Permanent release is transferred. A scheduled office is an office that has to do with pension. Any office that is being governed by the Pension Reform Act of 2014 is known as a scheduled office. So if an individual is living from, let's say, CAC is going to National University Commission permanently, is called a transfer, because CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission, is being governed by Pension Reform Act of 2014. The National Universities Commission is also being governed by Pension Reform Act of 2014. Now, if you watch, both of them are still agencies under the government, under the civil service. That is called transfer. It's a permanent release from an officer from one scheduled office to another. Now, remember when we started this, we said the two major organs of government that manage civil service is the Federal Civil Service Commission and the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. Now, when transfer is being done, the Federal Civil Service Commission must be aware for every transfer that is being done. That is why the law says every MDAs must make a quarterly report of transfer and secondment made. I repeat again, all MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies must make quarterly report of transfer, secondment, and forward such reports to Federal Civil Service Commission. In turn, the Federal Civil Service Commission will respond. MDAs will do theirs quarterly. Federal Civil Service Commission does the response. They respond also quarterly. Now, what are the conditions for an individual? You can as a civil servant, as an officer in one of the government agencies, you cannot just wake up one morning and say you want to leave. No, there are guidelines, there are conditions for you to say, okay, you want to leave. Now, let's briefly look at those areas where those conditions where one has to meet for such an officer to be transferred. First, an officer must have spent a minimum of 6 months in the service, which means you must have been confirmed. In some MDAs where there are no instant laws, confirmation is about 2 years, but in some is a minimum of 6 months, which means if you have been confirmed, if an officer has been confirmed, whether 6 months, 2 years, as the case may be, such officer may be considered for transfer. 1. 2. There must be vacancy. That is, an officer wants to leave from one MDA to another. The MDA you are leaving for must have vacancy. There must be vacancy in the MDA. Not just vacancy. That vacancy that you are going for, you cannot have BSc in accounting and the office you are going to has vacancy in administrative cadre. They won't give it to you. No, the office you are going to you must have requisite qualification for that office. What I mean by requisite qualification, a BSc accountant cannot move from National Universities Commission and go to CAC to become administrative cadre. No. If you are moving, it must be same with account. You must flow with the. That is why in the service it is highly prohibited. Let me repeat this again. In the service, it is highly prohibited to transfer or post an officer outside their professional cadre. But we've seen it in some places where some superior officers just want to get at their subordinates. You can imagine an accountant is being moved from account unit to either admin just to get at the officer or whatever, just to allow but it is highly prohibited in civil service. Again, one of the conditions that has to be met for transfer to take place, your next promotion should not be jeopardized by perhaps the next office you are moving to. Perhaps you are due for promotion the next year and you are moving this year. As you move to the next office, it's expected that the next year you take a promotion exam. So transfer, your next promotion should not be any way be jeopardized by the office you are going to. Now, Transfer of junior officers. When I mean junior officers, I mean grade level 6 and below. It's been handled by the junior staff committee, be it headquarters or local. It's been handled by them. Now, transfer is limited for grade level 7 to 14 for senior officers. Grade level 7. You cannot be a level 15 officer and you say you want to go on transfer. No. They can allow you to go on sabbatical. You can go on sabbatical. And normally, as I said before, your sabbatical is about 1 year. You can go on sabbatical and return. You don't just go on sabbatical. When we start talking about leave, we'll see explain more on sabbatical. When we start talking about leave in the service, we talk about leave. We'll see explain more. But that you are leaving as an assistant director, you cannot go on transfer or deputy director. You can be allowed to go for sabbatical. Then MDAs are to make what, as you said, the MDAs are to make quarterly reports to Federal Civil Service Commission, and this quarterly report has to also be forwarded to Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. Let's not forget, all these are geared towards you taking exams in civil service. Now, the Federal Civil Service of Nigeria, they are not trying to see how they can move from the analog age to the digital age, where civil servants take exam through digital means, no longer the analog means. And so you know how it works. When you don't know it, you don't know it. So the major aim, one of the aims of this class is to ensure that as a civil servant, irrespective of the cadre you are, irrespective of the grade level you are, you should be able to flow along. You should be able to go along with us so that your promotion exam or whatever exam you intend to may not be a setback to you. Once you follow this channel and you're able to flow with us, you discover that things become easier for you to handle. Now, we've talked about transfer. Let's look at secondment. Now, one more thing again about the transfer. Salary is being paid. Now, you are moving from National Universities Commission to, let's say you're moving to CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission, and you don't expect National Universities Commission to still be paying your salary. No. You have left, you have transferred, you've left, you've been released permanently. So it is expected that CAC pays you your emolument, your salary, and any other thing. Now let's look at secondment briefly. What is secondment? Secondment. People go on secondment, but we get confused. Somebody is going on transfer, somebody is going on secondment. Secondment is just the temporary release. It's a temporary, which means you are still coming back to your parents' agency or parastatal. It's a temporary release of an officer from one government agency to another, or to an international organization. It depends as the case may be where you are going to. And normally, secondment is about, the first instance is about 2 years. Secondment 2 years, and it's a maximum of 4 years for your secondment. You don't go for secondment for more than 4 years. However, if the secondment is based on public policy or public interest, perhaps it could be at the expense, it could be at the instance of the government or public capacity. The secondment normally is about 6 years. It does not go a maximum of 6 years for secondment. However, the benefiting agency of such an officer who has gone on secondment is responsible with the payment of emolument, salary, or what have you, for the officer that has gone on a secondment. Again, an officer on secondment has to be appraised. There must be progress report, and that report must be brought back to his or her parents' agency. Why? In due time for examination, any officer on secondment can always come back. That you're on secondment does not mean you should not write your promotion. No, you can always come and write your promotion. National promotion for you is cancelled. No. As a seconded officer, you are always expected to come and write your promotion examination. As such, your progress report annually must be done and submitted to your parent agency. That is secondment. Now, the conditions for secondment are almost similar to the conditions for transfer. For any individual to be transferred, they are almost similar. Just that what we should know is that the major difference there is that your salary as a seconded officer is being paid by your parent office, your parent MDA. Your salary is being paid by In secondment, I beg your pardon, the salary is being paid by the benefiting agency. The benefiting agency pays your salary. What I mean is, if an officer is moving from NUC, National Universities Commission, to CAC on secondment, it is CAC that pays your salary, not National Universities Commission. On the issue of secondment, we said that secondment could be on individual request or public interest. And if it is on an individual request, it's a maximum of 4 years. Remember, conditions to be met before an officer is seconded is quite similar to the one we talked about on transfer. On public interest is a maximum of 6 years. Now, for secondment, the benefiting NDA is the one that is responsible for the emolument of the officer that is being seconded. However, as we said before, progress report will be carried out on such officer, because such officer is due for every promotion exam that he or she is supposed to write, because he or she is on a secondment. However, where there's a differential in salaries, let's say somebody is moving from National Universities Commission to CAC. The parent MD where the individual is coming from is from NUC, and he or she is going to CAC. If there is a differential emolument, one of the agency with a higher pay takes charge of the differential of the salary. What I'm trying to say, or rather what we're trying to say is, if the individual is coming from NUC and is being paid 5 naira and is going to CAC, and CAC pays the individual the salary there, the emolument there for the secondary officer is 4 naira. You discover that the one NUC has 5 naira, CAC has 4 naira. NUC pays the differential, which is about 1 naira. It's like it's been added to the guy that has gone it's been added to the officer's emolument at CAC. That is that for secondment. Now we're looking at posting. We should not confuse posting with secondment or transfer. As I said before, transfer is just a permanent release from one schedule to another, and conditions are met. Secondment, we say, is a temporary release. Conditions similar to transferment. Therefore, posting has to do with the reassignment of an officer from one job description or from one area to another within the same MDE. What I'm trying to say is, an officer who works with CAC, let's say the office domiciles where he or she stays in Port Harcourt, and for one reason or the other, the officer is being asked to move from Port Harcourt to Benin. They have an office here in Benin. CAC has an office here in Benin, and he's been asked to move to Benin. That is not transfer, not secondment. Such situation is called posting. And if posting is being done by the agency takes full responsibility, the cost and everything. The agency takes full responsibility for the officer. But if posting is done at the request of the officer, perhaps the officer wants to go to wants posting to where his spouse is and the family. He wants to be closer to the family, and is requesting for posting. Now the new is that cost that is being incurred in the course of the posting will be shouldered by the officer, no longer the MD. Now again, an individual can be moved from, let's say, within the same MD. You are in admin, and or let me say you are in planning and research as a department or as a unit, and your head of department, or rather, it is discovered that you have an additional qualification or additional experience that can make you work better. Let me say, as an administrative officer in the administrative department, you could be moved from planning and research as a department to admin department. That is also called posting. However, it would also be called redeployment, which means you are moving from planning and research to admin, but still within the same office. Such is called posting. And so far so good. From the class we started today, we looked at appointment. Before now, we've talked about the history of the service. We've talked about the history, how the civil service is being structured, We looked at the history before independence and after independence, how the name came about. We also talked about the code of ethics, the core values. We looked at the organ that handles the activities of civil service. Then we look at the establishment of civil service. In today's class, we've talked about staffing, which is appointment really in civil service. How people come into the service, the definition of appointments, stroke recruitment. We looked at the procedure through which people come into the service. We also talked about the eligibility, because you cannot just wake up one morning and say you want to become a civil servant. You must pass certain hurdles you must pass, which is the eligibility. We talked about all that, which is being explained fully under the Civil Service Charter of 2009. We also talked about types of appointment in the civil service. We talked about 5 types of appointment. We went as far as discussing each of these appointments. Then we also looked at transfer conditions for them. We also looked at secondment conditions for them, and we also talked about posting. Now, guys, in our next class, we shall be looking at promotion stroke leaving the service. Promoted, you are as an individual already in the service, you are expected to grow career wise. We'll look at promotion, we'll look at ways through which people could leave this. When we come in our next class, we want to have a kind of questions, that possible questions that as a civil servant we may come across in the course of our, be it promotion exam, whatever type of exam at all that has to do with the service, irrespective of the grade level you are. In our next class, we'll start from there before we go into the next topic class. Thank you guys for listening, and see you some other time. Thank you.